Thank you, Shayamal. That was very insightful. I'm very sure all of us have one or two ideas that really resonate with where we are in our life stage today and what we would want to take back. I think to add to the conversation, what we have planned is Mr. Kaul has a couple of questions for Shayamal, and we have also plugged in some of the questions that has come through the Straight Talk questions that we had raised. So we'll take the next couple of minutes where we'll do a quick Q&A fire chat with Shayamal and Mr. Kaul.
Building a winning mindset helps sustain growth in the organization.
So, developing a winning mindset is, so in the world of sport, it's, the way I explain it to my team is that, I'll tell the cricketer, for example, that you may be playing in a team, like you are working in a company, but if everybody fails, the team fails, the company fails. So sometimes I just encourage them, I said, be a little bit selfish in your own success. Because if you are successful, the team is successful. Okay, but that stems from also caring about yourself enough to want and be hungry for that success. So we tell our athletes, because very often you fall into that team mindset so much that you're putting the team first, putting the team first, putting the team first all the time, that you lose that one opportunity to really make a decision that can propel the entire team forward. So we encourage them to believe in themselves, back themselves. But remember, belief comes at the back end of having done the work necessary. Okay. Because there's a very fine line, ladies and gentlemen, that remember, you can back yourself once, and if you fail, you can back yourself twice. But if you keep backing yourself without putting in the necessary work, eventually it'll stop, and no one will allow you to get those opportunities. But everyone encourages someone to sort of dig within, find courage, and give themselves the opportunity to move forward as such.
The second question is, how can positivity help leaders impact the business performance? How important is positivity?
So, I think positivity is everything, isn't it? It changes the entire aura. There's a beautiful research study that's done, and I use this a lot in sports psychology, that states that the state of arousal in my change room is directly proportional to the state of arousal on the playing field. So I can actually change performance or dictate performance by creating an environment inside the locker room similar to the state of arousal that I want in there. So if I get them pumped up in the locker room, they're going to be pumped up in the ground. Okay. Now, it's the exact same thing as a leader. Right? What is the state of arousal that you think will bring out the best in your team? And how are you going to create that state of arousal for them? That's the question that you need to ask. Remember, it'll be completely different for everybody. But on this one point, I'll tell you that as a leader, it's very, very important to give off 100% but not to be emotionally involved in the outcome. Because the only thing in your control is what you do. Today I delivered a talk. Okay, I can prepare to the best of my ability, but I'm not responsible for how much you take in. I can take feedback and I can go back and work on my talk again so that maybe you take out a little bit more. But all that is in my control is what I'm able to do. So the question you need to ask yourself as a leader, whether it's compassion or positivity, is, am I doing everything I possibly can to ensure I'm putting my best foot forward?
What are the most critical changes one needs to build within oneself, of course, to integrate self, to survive the organization industry in light of increasing competition?
So, competition exists, and we now live in a world, we live in a very, very digital age where you actually don't know where your competition was. Maybe 50 years ago, you knew the bank down the road was your biggest competition. Now, everything is digital. So challenges are coming and threats exist from places we don't know. It could be someone just in a garage that's created something that could become our biggest threat tomorrow. So pressure is going to exist, okay? And you can't decide that I'm going to be preparing for this stress or this pressure. Like I said, the only thing you can do is develop resilience inside and figure out what are the tools that will help me disseminate that those qualities that I need to handle that stress and handle that pressure. That's the most important thing. So the development of the self, as we said, becomes critical, because in a question like this, I cannot say And you can't even tell me what is the biggest threat you're going to face tomorrow or in 2 months' time or in 3 months' time. Okay. If I can give you one little story, which I think just highlights how beautiful, and it puts it up very nicely. Okay. I was reading a book from one of my spiritual masters. His name is Radhanath Swami, and he said he was sitting on the banks of the Ganga, and he's watching a bird, okay, that is circling around the Ganga. Okay. And it was an eagle. And he says, after a few minutes, that eagle swooped down, okay, and it just caught this fish and it flew off. Okay. And he says he's looking at that fish, and that fish is probably thinking it was doing nothing wrong. It troubled nobody, it's just swimming. It didn't even see the threat coming. And in a split second, its life was over. Okay. Now, that is very, very similar to our lives. Okay. That anything can happen at any one time that can throw us into complete disarray. Okay. So the question is, what are the tools that we can develop to help us withstand those things? But we should not be ignorant of the fact that anything can happen at any time. In fact, it should spur us on to develop that self-love, develop that compassion, develop that grounding that will help us withstand when these efforts, when these turmoils are thrown at us.
So when it comes to resistance, how to convert the team resistance into the acceptance in adverse situations?
So it all comes down to when you're working in an organization, you need a buy-in from everyone to move that forward. And in the world of sport, okay, one thing that we are very, very critical about is we are clinical with our decision making. Okay. So we give everybody the chance to fall in line and move an organization forward. But for any reason, we have people who don't buy in to our philosophy on how we wish to move it forward. Okay. We immediately cut them and replace them with someone else. Because remember, it comes from a mindset that sport is team first. Here, it's organization first. Okay. That's the mindset. And the only way someone will not fall in line is because there's a psyche or a schema where they feel that they've got to a place where they're more important than the goal of that organization. And that is a very, very dangerous place for any individual to be in, or for an organization to have people like that in it.
So when it comes to innovation, how can one, as a team leader, promote a culture of innovation within the team?
So innovation is about perspective, okay? And like I gave you the example with the Bisleri bottle, okay? If you really and truly want to be innovative, then you need to look at as many perspectives as possible. And the best way to create cultures of innovation is to create extremely diverse groups within that. So have males, females, have different age groups, have people from different socioeconomic backgrounds. The more people that are feeding information into a brainstorming session and think tank session will give you more perspective, and that will give you more diversity. The more diversity you have, the greater innovation you will have in that organization. So it's directly proportional to the amount of diversity that you create within a think tank.
Of course, you mentioned about pressures, which was the key address. So when it comes to pressures, how can one stay focused under challenging situations or perform under pressure?
So
because that pressure is already, targets banking on head that tomorrow you're going to achieve 50%, 40%, whatever.
Correct.
So the pressures are always there, and not only one scheme, 20 schemes altogether.
Yeah.
I mean, we can understand the pressure on our team members. So
I think, on that one point, everyone should go back and write down, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Where do you see yourself being in the same organization? At what level do you see yourself? What would you like? Right? Then go back and write down what are the 3 or 4 steps that you need to do every single day to get you there. Okay. Now, for example, I have processes that I do every day. I meditate for an hour every single morning. I meditate for an hour or chant in the night. I read for 1 hour every day. I journal for 30 minutes. Okay. I ensure that I sleep for 7 hours, and I ensure that I'm drinking 3 liters of water every single day. This doesn't change whether it's Christmas or Diwali, Monday to Friday. It doesn't change. Now, why do I have these processes? Because these are the steps that will allow me to get to where I want to get to. Okay. I'm not setting goals that's saying I need to do so many motivational talks, I need to write so many books, because those are very distant goals. You need to set process goals. Process goals is something that you can do every single day that makes you a better person. Okay. Right down to expressing gratitude. Gratitude is something that was so beautiful, and someone asked me, how can we express gratitude? And I'll ask this question to you. Okay. When is the first time that you are thankful in a day? When? Are you thankful to your driver? Or are you thankful to the guy who brings you a cup of tea in the morning? Are you thankful to the person who cooks your food? When are you grateful for the first time in the day? When you wake up. Why? It's another day? Okay, it is. But are you truly expressing that grateful? 151,600 people don't wake up in the morning. If you wake up, if your eyes open, and if the 4 or 5 people who you really love, the 3 on the list, wake up, that's when you should be grateful. Because that eagle hasn't picked you up at the water.
Last question is, how can one modify his leadership style?
How can you modify
his leadership style to suit the team and create a greater impact? So basically it's kind of evolving. How can you keep up evolving with the change in the situations?
I remember reading an article that said that people are not motivated by money. The only thing someone wants is acknowledgement and appreciation. So if there's one thing that I would bring into every person's leadership style, it's the ability to appreciate the people around you and acknowledge the efforts that they're putting in. If you just change this one thing, you'll increase the productivity of your team by 25%, easily. Right? Just say thank you. Just acknowledge the work that they're doing. Just bring that one small thing into your leadership, okay? And you watch the energy of your entire organization transform. Because think about it. There was a time in your life, right? You're all rising leaders. So there was a time when you were a little bit lower down in an organization, when you were working really, really hard, and you wanted nothing more than the person you're working for to come and acknowledge it. We were all sitting in that chair, but somehow we've risen up the ladder and we forgot what that felt like. And that person below is feeling that same thing. So all you need to do is just listen to that and do that. You'll change yourself as a leader, you'll change your organization.
So now we'll have an open Q&A. As I said, actually we had a couple of questions already trickling in, so let's hear them out first, and then we'll open up for the attendees in the room today. So as I go through all the questions that have come in, I think the concept of mindfulness has resonated with everybody. I'm not, at least with the set of people I've heard from. So I'll break all the questions into actually 3 parts.
Sure.
So they appreciated the concept of mindfulness, right? But there's also so much distraction around us, right? There's so many emails reaching us. We have so many priorities. We have to work with so many people. How do we declutter it? How do we reduce the distractions around us?
So the first thing is, you mentioned a very, very important word called decluttering. Okay, and I'm a very, very big fan of decluttering. I try to declutter almost every single week, and I think 3 weeks ago I deleted 39,000 emails, which was 3.5 years of emails. On a particular day, every 3.5 to 4 years, I hit delete and I clear the complete box, because I ask myself, are there emails that are important in there that I'd probably like to refer to? The answer is yes. How many were they? Maybe 5, maybe 10. So for the sake of 10 emails, am I going to let 39,000 weigh me down? Okay. So part of decluttering is about developing that ability to let go. Okay. That ability to let go of what has happened and let go of the past. Okay. So with all these distractions and mindfulness around us, okay, remember, the distractions you see and feel today are going to multiply by 10 or by 100 in another 2 or 3 years' time. The distractions are not going to exist, and are going to be multitude. Okay, which is why it's absolutely more important for us to hone our ability to focus on one thing at a time. And it's extremely, extremely easy to do. It's not difficult. It's not difficult to focus on one thing at a time. It just needs to create awareness. And once we start creating awareness towards that one thing, then that's what mindfulness is. It's the difference between having information and awareness. See, sugar is sweet is information. Knowing what sweet tastes like is awareness. Okay, that's the difference. We have all the information, okay, but we're not aware of anything. Mindfulness just brings our mind to that single point of focus, okay, and we have to realize that that is the only thing we need to achieve right now and get that out the way.
So this gets me to the second part of the question, which is also recurrent in some of the questions which has come here. So when you describe mindfulness, you touched upon the theme of focusing on one single aspect.
Yes.
Right? And the concern that some of them have shared is today, as part of our work, as part of our role, right, as we're growing up in the organization, we are expected to multitask. How does that work?
So multitasking is a word that was come about because of computers. Computers multitask, the human brain cannot multitask. Okay, your focus can shift, and it can shift numerous times. But once it shifts, it cannot focus on something else. So the more it shifts, the less attention you're giving to anything and everything. Okay, so multitasking as a word in an organization should completely be removed from the vocabulary, because human beings cannot multitask. We give our attention to something, and think about this. You're writing an email, someone calls you, your receptionist calls you, you answer the phone. Are you still writing? No, the writing stops, the phone answers. Okay, someone comes in to see, are you still talking to your receptionist and writing the email and addressing the person? You're not. Your focus is shifting. Okay, so what you need to do in your day is carve out times when you're going to do specific tasks. Like if you're going to respond to emails, you will respond to emails maybe 2 or 3 times in the day. And you give yourself 15 minutes. If you're going to look at your phone, say that I'm going to look at my phone for 5 minutes on the hour, every hour. Okay, once you set these things, then you'll find that you narrow down your focus and your energy on specific tasks at the time. If you leave it open, you'll be completely distracted.
I'll be having 2 questions back to back.
Sure.
First is, how a banker can have a physique like you? You said that can have a body physique. Physical fitness like you.
Yeah.
You said that weekend you run about 100 kilometers.
Correct.
You are a marathoner.
Yes.
Okay, I do. I have joined Nike Run Club.
Oh, lovely.
So weekend 13-14 kilometer is max to max what I can do. So I need a tip from you, being a trainer for the athletes and the sportsman.
Okay.
So how to get a body like you and a mind like you?
It's both of it is a byproduct of practice and discipline more than anything else. Running, and I'll tell you this, is that, I've been running for 20 years, okay, averaging between 70 to 100 kilometers a week for 20 years, okay. Running is a part and parcel of who I am, okay. But my physique came from cutting a few things out of my diet and sticking to that. So, for example, I don't have any lactose, I don't eat any gluten, I eat extremely light foods. I make sure I hydrate and have 3 liters of water a day, minimum. Okay. Because of my meditation, I'm extremely focused on, when I'm running, how my body feels. Okay. So running for me is also very, very therapeutic. So when I'm on the road and I'm running, it's not just the act of running. Okay, it's about how quickly I'm getting the mind to transition from consciously what I'm doing to the subconscious. And then I'm listening to my feet, I'm listening to my heart, I'm listening to everything around me, how the body's feeling. And the only way you can get to that stage is if you practice it. And the only way, and if you really love running, and this was a question I had to ask myself, if you really, really love something, right, what are you prepared to sacrifice to make sure you can enjoy that experience that much further, isn't it? So I gave up a lot of things that I ate because running meant so much to me. So I gave it up to enjoy the experience. And you can take this lesson into anything in life. If you really, really love your work, right, what are you prepared to sacrifice to make sure that you can enjoy that experience more? What are you prepared to do to make sure you can enjoy the experience more? So that was the first.
Thank you. Second question is, as a leader or as a trainer, you suppose you're training 10 athletes. In a group of 10, you have been training the athletes. You see a spark of fire in one or two athletes.
Correct.
That can become like Roger Federer or whatever. No,
Correct.
not everyone can become the Roger Federer,
Correct.
right? So how do you distinguish that these people has the fire? If you distinguish that, yeah, one or two guys, athlete has the fire to become the sportsman of international acclaim. But there are some other athletes also whom you don't see any spark, any passion, any compassion, anything like no, कुछ नहीं हो सकता है इसका. He or she has to be kicked out. So how do you deal with that kind of situation as a true leader, so that they should also not get any injustice and they also get benefited?
So that's quite an interesting question. Firstly, in my experience of almost 20 years of working with professional athletes, the young kid who is extremely talented, right, very rarely goes on to become Roger Federer or Sachin Tendulkar or Virat Kohli. Very rarely. It's actually the child who's not talented but is prepared to work 10 times harder that goes on. Okay. So what am I looking for? I'm not looking for how well someone bowls or how well someone bats. I'm looking for who's the kid who is there at 5:30 when I'm calling you at 6 a.m. Okay. I'm looking for the kid who is there at 8:30 when the session finished at 8 o'clock. Okay. We have a saying that's called, it's the unseen hours that pay. See, the seen hours is the 8 to 5 that everyone is doing in your organization. It's the guy before and the guy after that's going to go further. And that's what you need to wait there for, to look after and see it. Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Mehta. We're having an open hour session where all our participants are asking questions. So, I'll request you to join them on the dais. Will that be okay?
Please, yes.
Good evening, everyone. My question is, okay. Thank you for this lovely session today. And my question is, today's world, what's happening? Like when you are going ahead in your journey as a leader, when you are growing, there are a lot of critics. Without the critics, you can't go, because that is required, you to know actually what is your bad side also. But sometimes what happens, like there are certain critics or certain negative factors, they created a persona of yours which you are really not, to get you back or pull you back. So in such a scenario, how to get yourself out of such a negative factor, like how you can be, you should be, keep those things aside and you just ignore those things, because those are sometimes they may provoke you in certain way that may, huddle your growth part or something. So how you are going to deal with that kind of situation?
Yeah.
You want me to?
You can answer. There we go, sir.
I don't know what I have heard or read somewhere, it is true or not. But if you have more critics, no, that itself indicates that you are growing. Okay? Unless you are growing or you are on the growth path, why do you have critics? This is one. And secondly, in the journey of leadership, if you really want to be more matured and to learn more leadership attributes, you can never have this while continuing to work under the comfort zone. See, the growth and the development happens only in the difficult zone or the terror zone. You understand? So, if you want to be a leader, one of the attributes is to invite the critics. And constructive criticism, you should just digest it and take corrective steps. Criticisms could be two types. One which is constructive, another could be destructive. You have to ignore the destructive part. But you should have the ability to understand and differentiate what is constructive, what is otherwise. Once you learn this art, I think nobody can stop you from becoming the leader.
Thank you, sir.
My question is with Mr. Shayamal. In the beginning of your speech, you said that we should focus on ourselves first. I should love myself first and then anything else. But the kind of world we are working in, the kind of profession we are in, it's not only I, actually we works here. So just how to manage between I and we. I should give me importance to me as well as my team members, because to grow in our organization, to achieve something in our organization in a structured way, I need to improve not only myself, I need to improve the people who are working around me. So how to make a balance between the two?
So, yeah, it's an interesting question. There's a reason, sir, why, when you're flying on a plane and the air hostess tells you that in the case of cabin pressure dropping, please put your mask on first before you put the child's on. Why? Because if you are dead, you can't help anyone else, right? So, it's the same principle, right? You want to really unlock the best in your team. You need to be rock solid. You need to be like a tree, strong roots, anchored, to be able to withstand anything. Because a tree is strong, it's anchored, okay? And its branches go out wide. And everyone within your team will be sitting under that tree, and you'll need to protect them, okay, as they grow and as they develop. Now, you can only protect someone, you can only grow someone, you can only develop someone, right, if you are growing and if you are developing and if you are strong. Which is why I keep saying, look within. I have a saying that says, don't neglect your inner development whilst you're searching for your outward goal. And that's the only reason I'm saying that.
So there is a follow-up question from our participants who have joined us online, which kind of follows through on this. So the question here is, sometimes when we are investing in our development or the team's development, the performance may take a hit for some time.
Yes.
How do we react to that?
So, in most teams or most organizations, when you're going through a period of trial and error, okay, you forecast for a dip, isn't it? You forecast for it. You expect, when you're trying something new, you expect that performance is dip. It's very unrealistic to expect the same growth curve whilst you're trying new things, whilst you're building a new team, trying a new product to it. It's trial and error. So, I think if you're expecting the same forecast and the same growth, you're doing a great disservice to yourself as a leader and to the growth and development of your entire team. So what I would advise these people is forecast for that dip and project how long you expect it to go before you expect your group and your team to mature and the curve to return back to normal and continue going. See, everything is about being mindful and being aware of what's expected. Once you create an awareness around these things, you're able to better manage your emotions and things won't catch you unawares. It's because you're not projecting these and you're not thinking about it that that dip catches you unawares and you need to pose a question like this or you'll need to think of what to do. You're on the back foot. If you prepare for it, you'll be all right.
The question here is, how do you measure the success as a leader for yourself? So how do you measure
your success
as a leader? And I think the question is, we'll actually extend the question to all of us who are there.
Okay. Would you like to? So I think it's such a valid question. I'll also share the mic with everyone as well on their perspective. So there are various types of success. There's your financial success, your status success, your money, and there's also the development and growth of you as a person. It all depends on how you quantify success. Okay, if you're only chasing outward success and neglecting your inner development as a person, then you're going to be a very achieved person, but not a very fulfilled person. Okay, so for me, my success is quantified by my fulfillment, not quantified by my achievement. Okay. And if you're looking at only achievements, if you're looking at status in an organization, how much money you have, you're going to have everything one day and you're going to lack happiness. You're going to lack fulfillment. Okay. So I think having the balance between these two is critical as a person. And this can only come from developing and nurturing yourself every single day. Okay. So success for me is that, is finding the balance between your achievements and your fulfillment, and inculcating fulfillment every single day into your life by showing appreciation, by gratitude, by showing compassion, by showing kindness, making sure that whilst your company is growing at 7% or so annually, right, you are growing at 7% annually as a person as well. So that, as I asked you the first question, how would you like to be remembered in 10 years' time? And everyone said, we'd like to be a good person. So what are you doing to be remembered as a good person? You're doing a lot to make sure you're making the money, but you're not interested in that because you don't want people to know you by the amount of money you made. You want them to know you by the type of person you are. So invest in that as well. That's how I would answer it.
So before you stick, I can say two words, since the question was to everybody. So to me, it is just, as you said, self-fulfillment, and at the end of the day, when you feel like you have got so many, you are as a mentor, and so many followers are following you, that is to say, take the step out, lead it from the front, and then create an atmosphere whereby you have got a trail of followers to follow you. And at the end of the day, have a wow factor within you that yes, this is something it, rather than linking it to some whatever scales or grades or figures. At the end of the day, wow, yes, I have done it right, and I have done it right for the team, and there are followers behind you where you give a legacy of what you have done.
Yeah. No, I really don't understand as to why one should resort or rather attempt to measure that success as a leader. A leader, whether he really requires to measure whether he is a leader or not. I mean, which is absolutely, I think, not something which is not needed. But as I think Kaul Sahab has said, and as Shayamal has also said, it is all about measuring your own attributes, that when you started the journey as a leader, how you would have rated yourself. While you have been in the learning mode, while you have been into the learning new attributes, how you rate yourself. It's about self-discovery. It's about innovative thinking. It's about strategic planning. It's about putting in place some action plan which is measurable. All put together collectively makes a leader. And as he has said, leader is not one, but leader is also responsible to create the second line of leadership. Okay? And it is more about, let me put it this way. How many of you have a me time? We talk about work-life balance, we talk about we time. How many of you have the me time, which is your own time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? And I think that's the place where you should try to measure your own performance or improvement as the leader. Okay, leadership has to be imbibed. Leadership cannot be measured. Okay, let me give an example. Whether Mr. Ratan Tata or Mr. K.V. Kamath, whether they really require to measure their leadership as to what type of leader is. Is it a national leader? Is it a global leader? Is it like they have been considered as leader by the larger population? They have not said, look here, I am the global leader kind of thing. And the leadership also in various, I would say, somebody could be a political leader, some could be the professional leader, some could be a spiritual leader, so on and so forth. So what is more important is not only about the leadership, but what type of leader that you really want to become, which is also equally important. My suggestion would be never ever attempt to measure your leadership attribute. Just work on that and see that, you will have followers by default. Once they see you a transformed person, I think you will have your own, like critics, you will have your own followers also.